He spent years trying to destroy Islam, and then he became the reason it survived. That's not a redemption story. That's not a conversion story. That's something rarer and harder to explain. A man who was so honest with himself that he was willing to become the enemy of everything he had spent his life defending. Most people never do that. Most people die defending the wrong side just to avoid admitting they were on it. Khalid ibn al-Walid was not most people. Drawn from history. He was born in Mecca into the Makhzum clan, one of the most powerful families in the Quraysh tribe. His father was a man of immense authority. The family controlled key responsibilities in Mecca, including the command of cavalry. Power wasn't something Khalid had to chase, it was handed to him at birth, and he was extraordinary with it. From the time he was young, Khalid moved like a man born for war. Horses obeyed him the way they obey very few people, instinctively, completely. He mastered the sword, the spear, the bow. He studied terrain. He read battlefields the way scholars read books. By the time he was a grown man, military commanders twice his age were watching him with the particular kind of attention that excellence demands. He was the best, and he knew it. He was also, for a significant portion of his life, fighting on the wrong side. At the Battle of Uhud in 625 AD, Khalid did something that changed the course of the fight entirely. The Muslim army had the upper hand. They had positioned archers on a hillside with strict orders. Do not leave your position, regardless of what happens below. For a while it worked perfectly. The Quraysh forces were struggling. Then the Muslim archers saw the battle turning in their favor and made a fatal mistake. They left their post to collect the spoils. Khalid saw the gap the instant it opened. He moved immediately, swinging his cavalry around the flank, hitting the Muslim army from behind while they were celebrating what they thought was victory. Within minutes, the battle reversed completely. Muslims who had been winning were suddenly dying. That was Khalid. The speed of the decision, the absolute refusal to hesitate. One opening, one moment, and he was already through it. After Uhud, he was celebrated in Mecca as a hero. But something had shifted in him, something he didn't talk about yet. He had been watching the Muslims for years, not just on battlefields. He had watched how they carry themselves, how they treated each other, how they faced death, not with resignation, but with something that looked from the outside like peace. He had tried to kill the Prophet Muhammad on multiple occasions. Every time something intervened, not always dramatically, sometimes just circumstances. A trench dug in exactly the right place. A formation that shouldn't have worked but did. Prayer performed in a way he had never seen, that rotated soldiers in and out of prostration so precisely that he could never find the moment to strike. After watching that prayer, he said to himself, "This man cannot be reached. I am the finest military mind I know, and I cannot get close to him." That wasn't fear. That was observation. Khalid was the kind of man who trusted his own analysis more than his emotions, and his analysis was telling him something his pride didn't want to hear. Then came the Treaty of Hudaybiyah in 628 AD. The Muslims came to Mecca for pilgrimage, unarmed, dressed in white, carrying no weapons. They were stopped before they could enter. A treaty was negotiated. The Muslims agreed to terms that looked, on the surface, like humiliation. They turned around and went home without completing the pilgrimage. And yet, Khalid watched the Muslim leader accept terms that appeared to disadvantage his own people, and do it calmly. Without rage, without wounded pride, he watched the Muslims return to Medina without what they had come for, and somehow this didn't break them. It bothered him more than any battle had. Around this time, a letter arrived from his brother Walid, who had converted to Islam years earlier. The letter said, "The Prophet has been asking about you. He said, a man of your intelligence, if he considers this honestly, will know the truth of it. You have been fighting against something you haven't truly examined. Come." Khalid read it alone. Then he put it down. Then he picked it up and read it again. He went to two friends first, told them he was thinking about going to Medina. Both of them looked at him like he had lost his mind. One of them, Safwan ibn Umayyah, said flatly, "No, never." The other, Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl, said the same. He didn't argue with either of them. He just said, "Forget I mentioned it," and walked away. The third man he approached was Uthman ibn Talha. He told him the same thing. Uthman said, "I'm coming with you." And on the road to Medina, they ran into Amr ibn al-As, one of the most politically sophisticated men in Arabia, who told them he was making the same journey for the same reason. Three of the most capable men the Quraysh had produced walking to Medina together. That was only the beginning. When they arrived, Khalid's brother Walid came running. "The Prophet already knows you're coming," he told us. "He's been waiting for you." Khalid walked into the presence of Muhammad. He said, "Peace be upon you, messenger of God." The Prophet looked at him and said, "Praise be to God who has guided you. I always knew there was great good in you." Khalid's next words were the ones that mattered. He said, "I ask you to pray for forgiveness for everything I have done against the Muslims." And Muhammad said, "Islam wipes away what came before it." That was it. The man who had broken Muslim armies, who had turned the tide at Uhud, who had spent years as Islam's most dangerous military opponent, was now part of it. The sword had changed sides, and within months everyone would understand what that meant. His first battle as a Muslim was at Mu'tah in 629 AD, and it was a disaster from the moment it began. The Muslim army of 3,000 men was facing a Byzantine force that some accounts put at over 100,000. Three commanders had been appointed in sequence, in case the one before them fell. The first commander fell, the second fell, the third fell. The army was leaderless, surrounded, facing annihilation. Khalid picked up the flag. What he did next is studied in military academies to this day. He didn't try to win. He understood immediately that winning was impossible. Instead, he reorganized the army overnight, repositioning troops, creating the appearance of fresh reinforcements arriving, shifting formations so rapidly that the Byzantine commanders hesitated, uncertain what they were actually facing. He extracted that army, 3,000 men in the face of a force that dwarfed them, and he got them home. When news reached Medina, the Prophet said, "A sword from among the swords of Allah has taken command." That was the day Khalid ibn al-Walid received the title that would follow him forever, Saif Allah, the sword of God. What followed over the next decade was one of the most extraordinary sustained military records in human history. He fought in over 100 battles. He never lost one, not one. After the Prophet's death, Arabia began to fracture. Tribes revolted. False prophets emerged. The young Muslim state faced threats on every front simultaneously. Caliph Abu Bakr sent Khalid to hold it together. He moved fast. Faster than anyone thought an army could move. He would win a battle in one region and be fighting in another before his enemies there had finished planning against him. Speed was his most consistent weapon. Not just physical speed, but cognitive speed. The ability to read a situation, make a decision, and execute it before the enemy finished processing what was happening. He fought the Persians. He fought the Byzantines. At the Battle of Yarmouk in 636 AD, facing a Byzantine army vastly larger than his own, he concealed a significant portion of his cavalry behind terrain, and then attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. It was the kind of tactical maneuver that requires total confidence in your soldiers and total understanding of your enemy's psychology. The Byzantine army broke. Then, Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab removed him from command. Not for failure, not for disobedience, because the victories had become so consistent, so overwhelming, that people had started to believe the victories came from Khalid rather than from God. Umar said later, "I did not remove him because I doubted him. I removed him because the people had begun to worship his success instead of understanding its source." Khalid accepted it. No public protest, no wounded pride. He handed over command, stepped back, and continued to serve as a regular soldier. The man who had once fought to destroy Islam had become, in its service, the most selfless version of himself. He died in bed in Homskud, Syria, old, scarred beyond measure. There was reportedly not a hand's width of his body without a wound from some battle, and he died not on a horse, not holding a sword, but lying down, slowly. His last words were famous. He said, "I have fought in battle after battle, and there's no place on my body that does not bear a wound, and yet here I am, dying like a camel in a bed. May the eyes of cowards never sleep. He was not complaining. He was stating a fact about a life he had chosen and never regretted. He gave away everything he owned before he died. He left behind his horse and his sword, in the request that they be given to someone who would use them. The man who spent his early life as Islam's greatest military threat died as its greatest military defender. That's the story. Clean, direct, no easy explanation. He looked at what he had been doing. He looked at what he believed. He decided they didn't match, and he changed. Most people never do that. Most people keep defending the wrong side because admitting the truth costs too much. Khalid paid the cost, and then he spent the rest of his life building something worth more than anything he had torn down. The sword that had once cut against Islam became the sword that carried it forward, and it never dulled. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe and leave a like. You can also write in the comments which historical topics you'd like to see next. See you in the next video.